Yeah, season 1, episode 10, Firestorm. A storm of fire.
Yeah, this was obviously, I think my speculation is that this was supposed to be a Halloween episode,
Yeah, it
but
sounded like it looked like it should have been a Halloween episode.
but maybe production schedule got backtracked a
Bumped
little
back.
bit, and so you ended up with it going a little bit going off
Late.
a little bit later. Though really, with his, unless there's something in the next couple episodes, there's only a couple episodes left. I think this week and next week, and that's the end of the season.
Mhm.
No!
I know, it's disappointing, isn't it? Although I've got to say, they've been making it feel more and more like Trek as you go along.
Yes,
Like, really been coming into their own as far as making it feel like classic Star Trek.
yeah. There's a lot of Trek feel to this. This is very Trek flavored.
It is.
It feels like this is what. Basically, they reskinned what Seth MacFarlane would do if he ever got a hold of the Star Trek franchise.
Yeah.
Well, don't turn it too much into Trek or I'll start falling asleep.
You mean like we do when we hear you blather on?
Rockabye baby in a treetop.
Oh, now we just start running screaming.
But yeah, it's been feeling more. It's beginning to feel a lot like Star Trek.
Good God, no.
Oh, I'm not going to break into song. I'm not that good at it.
That
She gonna
doesn't
sing?
stop us.
Yes.
But yeah,
Ooh,
it was a. It's got some. This really feels like what Trek should be. I mean, it's got a little bit extra, you know,
a little bit of extra comedy, but I think it just adds to the flavor of it.
yeah. It's like that's the only thing that separates it. The only thing that separates it from Trek proper is the comedy. Trek
And even
proper
that isn't
doesn't really
even
have a
that
lot of comedy.
bad.
But
I mean, it depends on which verse. I mean, there was a lot of subtle comedy in it, you know?
yeah, but like overt in your face, boom, here's some
Yeah.
other stuff. Yeah, that's not really Trek style. Like there might be some funny bits with, shut up Wesley and that sort of thing, but
And Pregnant Trip.
oh yeah, some situational humor like that, but a lot of the humor of this is just straight up jokes and
Like,
crude humor and whatnot.
what is a clown? Big red fro, huge floppy feet, too much makeup, scary as hell. You just described my mom.
Yeah, it's very much it's got it feels like it feels like they gave Seth MacFarlane Star Trek.
Yeah.
Which makes me wonder about an alternate universe. Okay? An alternate universe in which CBS hired Seth MacFarlane to make Family Guy for them. And they were like, "Oh, you love Star Trek? Yeah. How would you like to be in charge of that?"
That would have been brilliant because he's doing an amazing job with this.
Yeah, I think that would have been a very, very interesting alternate universe to think about. I mean, he's been in Star Trek, I think, at least once. He was a walk-on, just sort of, he did something and then, he walked off. I think Trip was telling him something to do. He was an engineer. It's like, go do that. Okay. He had like a line or two, but that was it. and he just went off screen and did nothing. It was basically just walk on, short line, walk off. But
Still, fanboy dream.
yeah, essentially, yeah. He got to be on Star Trek. He got to wear a uniform. He was probably
I
pleased with that.
really like the Orville uniforms too.
Yeah, the Orville, they're very classic sort of sci-fi
Yeah.
look. They're not, they're not overdone. It's very, I like that
They're very well stated, not overstated. They're very well stated.
Yeah. I hadn't really thought about this, but what are their colors? I mean, blue. McFarlane is in the first officer in blue. Alara's in red.
Red is probably. I'm thinking red is like security.
Yeah, it's a bit like
officer.
gold, because engineering, I think, is also in red.
Yeah.
So I think it's like gold in TNG.
Yeah.
And Alora hasn't died yet.
Or red in TOS.
Yeah, the probably the more relevant.
And then
comparison.
green would probably be medical.
Yeah, which was actually kind of what TNG Ford sort of did with the green. It was sort of a bluish green.
Yeah, they had teal as their uniform. I actually have a teal TNG uniform.
Ooh. Yeah.
And so blue would be command, and I haven't seen any yellow. I don't remember seeing any yellow. Any
blue
of the gold.
And red we've seen, but and green.
Blue, red, green
seem to be the colors. I don't remember seeing any gold out there. But yeah, I like the kind of color coordinated thing, and I like that they obviously couldn't do the pips because that would be just like, it's a little, you're already getting a little close. Let's so the shoulder mounted rank bars are that's fine.
And that's pretty similar to like regular military too. So
yeah. Officers having, typically, their little oak leaf or bars or something on their shoulder, whereas more enlisted are down the side. But yeah.
And if you noticed in this, especially in this one, it's more overt. They have the communicator on the wrist instead of the tap your chest thing.
Yeah, they had to. Yeah, they had to definitely show some points where they weren't exactly. It's like, yes, you're a Star Trek clone to a certain extent.
Yeah.
We need something to look different. It's like, yes.
And like shape of the uniforms was a lot closer to, regular military uniforms. Like Star Trek, they were way more out of this world, and they were, especially in the original series with the little mini skirts and stuff, and even first season Next Gen, the uniforms weren't really military uniforms.
Yeah, you gotta.
Whereas the Orville, the uniforms are very much their equivalent of military whites. The cut of the outfit and everything is far more standard to like military uniforms than Star Trek.
Yeah. Okay, so as much as we're gushing about the story, the show as a whole, which I hope it gets a second seasoning.
It did. It's already on.
Already got green light. All right, cool.
Yep.
Yeah,
there's at least one episode of season 2 listed.
Cool. Because this thing's got legs. I think this one's gonna do something. Yeah. If nothing else, it's for people like me who refuse to deal with the stupid changes to the Klingons and the paywall of Discovery. It's like this is my little Star Trek hit, instead of having to fork over money for something that they've really messed up the looks of. It's like
They butchered.
yeah,
the-
this is
Oh, don't worry. If it get canceled, a whole bunch of fans will get together to bring it back, just like Family Guy.
No. Oh, you mean the Orville gets canceled?
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't.
Which
yeah, I
would
don't-
be kind of funny because that's what happened with the original Star Trek.
But it was. Yeah, anyway, so
On to the specifics of the episode.
yeah, somebody stop washing their microphone.
Not me.
Oh, Jack was coloring on a clipboard.
Okay.
I sent him off to color elsewhere.
Yes. It sounds like you're washing your microphone. Anyway,
I'm like, wow, that's too loud. Go.
all right, so there
Oh,
got
God,
there's
it is.
so there's a plasma storm, problem in engineering. They all, she gets called down immediately to Alara gets called down immediately with her super strength to fix the situation. It's like, yes, we need somebody to, pull this off them. Which, there was a comment down on the end of the wiki article, like, what if you just had like variable grav plates or something? Like, just like press the button and gravity lessens there, and you could just lift things off people.
Yeah, that's what would happen if there was a malfunction in that then, especially in engineering.
You float. They all
But
float down
not
here.
just that, but the anything not set down or not attached to anything would float.
Which I imagine everything already is, because if grav plating fails as a whole, it's probably prepared to deal with that. And like everything is screwed in. If you're on a spaceship, you don't trust gravity to be there all the time. Like all your backup systems and everything are probably, they have a means of being locked down to where there are already
Backups.
Yeah,
But also, with a variable gravity, there's another issue of the gravity can change densities and make it even stronger.
Yeah, but
Whereas if it's preset, like, oh, Earth gravity, you don't really have to worry about that.
yeah,
Ew.
which makes me wonder also if you had that sort of adjustable gravity thing. It's like there are ships like in Star Trek that are populated solely by Vulcans. I think because we had like that baseball game between that kind of Vulcan thing and that Vulcan ship and well, I'm not
it's
sure
not-
if they're in Starfleet, but I would imagine that would come up from time to time. It's like, yes, we're going to have a ship, because like there are different environmental needs, and so for like a Vulcan, having it warm would not be a problem. We're like, yes, this is actually quite comfortable, and it doesn't stink. Doesn't
Yes.
reek of humans. So
and
but-
Klingon.
Humans don't. Okay, we do.
Yeah,
according to Paul, humans have quite the scent.
Yeah.
Yeah, some aliens think we smell disgusting. Some think we smell delicious.
But anyway, she runs up. There's a bit of fire, and it stalls her for a second, and she doesn't get the pillar off immediately, which, in reality, just at that point he was already dead. It was just a matter of the damage was done. It was just a matter of the real questioning here was if it hadn't been something where he wasn't already dead, you are already dead, sort of Fist of the North Star. Yeah. But if he wasn't already dead, that delay might have caused problems with other things. But
at the same time, she, the fact that she held back long enough to not get fried in the process.
Yeah. That's another thing. It's like, yes, there's a balance between, yes, you need to be non-hesitant in terms of things you can get away with not being a non-hesitant around. Fire is not a non-hesitant hazard. If something's on fire, yes, you should probably, activate a fire suppression system and then deal with it. Because right now, as it stands, if you run into that fire and you die, well, now there's 2 people dead. If one person dies and one person, doesn't save the person who was there, well, guess what? You were never going to save them in the first place. But it
does not change the survivor guilt. That's the problem.
Yeah, that doesn't. Yeah, you can rationalize this sort of survivor. You can rationalize it all you want, but guilt isn't rational. It's not a rational thing. I know that sounds very Vulcan, but
guilt would have been rational is if it had caught on something first and it's like an inch away from crushing him, and when she hesitated, it then fell on him.
Yeah, but this episode wasn't about he would have died if she hesitated. The whole point of it was
I know. I was just saying the guilt would have a reason.
Yeah, well, that was the intent, was for the guilt not to have reason. It was to cut the roots out of the guilt so that when she's dealing with it, it's irrational. It was intended to be. It was intended to be irrational. So she's like, I want to resign my commission to Mercer, and he's like, no, I need my pickle jar opener.
Yeah, I do love that. Every time there's a problem, can you open up this jar of pickles for me?
Yeah, he's like, yeah, you are clearly incredibly strong. Can you open this?
Yeah, and it's like the fact, and he even, I love that line he used when she's trying to resign because of it, and it's like, people seem to think that being brave means not being afraid. The way I see it, if you're not afraid, there's nothing to be brave about.
Yeah.
I kind of want to see an episode where they visit her planet. They're like, oh my god, gravity's so heavy.
Yeah.
They meet Bam Bam.
But I also love the fact that her dad was the EMH.
Oh, yes. Please state the nature of the psychological emergency.
Her dad was Robert Picardo. That was super sweet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and there's all sorts of Trek people floating around this thing.
Yeah.
It's like,
I actually had so many discussions at the convention about this. And we were talking about the Orville and all the good and the few good and the lot of bad about it. And I'm just like, have you seen Orville? It's like, oh my God, yes, that's what Star Trek should be.
Oh, you mean, you said Orville, but I think you meant Discovery.
No. We were talking about Discovery.
Well, I mean, like,
and
good and a lot bad with Discovery.
Yeah,
and
the little good and a lot bad about Discovery,
yeah,
the new Trek.
You said
and
Orville.
then we're like,
no,
because then we were talking about the Orville.
Anyway, but this is Trek. This is, it's hopeful, it's bright. It's not,
It gives you great insight into character evolution and character development. It has so much allegory and, depth to the story that even the Abramverse doesn't really have.
The Abramverse isn't real Trek. It's action Trek. It's not really.
Yes.
There's no real allegory. There's not a lot of real meat to it. It's how can
Same with-
how can we make a bigger explosion?
Hey, this isn't Michael Bay, okay?
Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
they
it
did
might
the
as well
Michael
be
Bay verse.
with the Star Trek movies, the JJ verse movies.
Yeah.
And they're not bad, but they're popcorn movies that are not really there for the sort of
Trekdom.
yeah.
And even though Enterprise had so much, it had so not the same level of development that all of the other Treks did. You know?
But it was more Trek than what came after it.
Yeah. That's
Star
because
Trek is
Drago
slowly
was
becoming less Trek.
Yeah.
And,
But Orville is so much Trek, so much what Trek is at its heart.
yeah, it's
Like,
a callback to sort of,
Roddenberry would. I think Roddenberry, if he watched this, would be like, "That is what Trek is supposed to be."
yeah. I think this is definitely a callback to Golden Age of Trek. Sort of TNG is sort of this, TOS is good in its own way, but TNG is like the golden age of what sort of episodic Trek can be.
Yeah.
If you want a more long-term story, DS9's got a great long-term story. Voyager's got somewhat of it's got a long-term story as well, but I think DS9 has a much more complex, much more connected.
Voyager wasn't so much a long-term story as a long-term plot device.
Yeah, they're trying to get home. Yeah,
Yeah, that was the only long-term thing about that story.
Yeah,
the rest of it was more episodic, adventures in space.
Yeah, and
which I think I liked it more for the characters, and I think it was better acted than it was written in some areas.
Yeah, and well, you had some great actors and actresses in that.
Oh, it did.
If you've seen the original tapes of who they first wanted to be the captain, she was some French Canadian woman. It was like she did not have you watch her and she is just she's I imagine she's a fine actress with other things, but she didn't have that. There's a captain factor where you just look at somebody and say, that's a captain.
Yeah.
Patrick Stewart, he can pull off a captain. Shatner,
Funny
he
enough,
can pull off a
Seth
captain.
MacFarlane does makes a great captain.
Yeah. Avery Brooks, I think he played
Avery
Cisco.
Brooks.
He's got the captain. She didn't, and Mulgrew was such an upgrade. She was fantastic.
Owned that role. I mean, she could have been written as the most two-dimensional, boring character you can imagine. She could have been written as like freaking I don't know, some random character, and she would have turned that character into a captain.
Yeah.
She just dominated that role.
She oozes
so well.
charisma, and she's just. It's one of those ones where you can look at somebody and go, "Yeah, I could follow that person as a captain.
Yeah.
I could. Yes, captain."
She would be a great doctor because she has that. She walks into a room and everybody's like, "Okay, she's in charge."
Yeah, she could have. Yeah, she's not British, so it's harder to do that. You don't really. We've never had a non-British. Doctor.
But I mean, as far as the character and the personality goes,
that's definitely it's that sort of.
She has that doctor element to her.
I'm in command. I'm here. I've got charisma. You're gonna do what I tell you to do, and this is why you're gonna do it. And if you don't do it, I'm gonna kick your butt. Sort of situation, or I'm going to spin language in such a way that you will be utterly ashamed of what you're doing. It's that sort of either I'm going to kick your butt into doing it, or I'm going to spin words so eloquently that you will feel ashamed for even considering not following what I was going to tell you to do.
Exactly. She's just, and I think as far as captaining goes, Seth MacFarlane, his captain, his version of being captain, it doesn't have that it factor, but at the same time, real military captains don't always have that. But he does have that sensibility and that sense of knowing what needs to be done and doing it.
Yeah, he doesn't have it like, if you put him next to, Jean-Luc Picard or Cisco, those two have far more captain-like things to it. But I think he's good enough that he's not a detriment to it. He doesn't, he's got enough of it that
he doesn't exude the captaincy but I think that's what works as far as the series goes, because it makes it feel a little more real as far as this, the
and given the fact this is his first command, his first ship he's in command of, that's not that surprising.
Yeah, and it makes it feel more like it enhances the chemistry between the characters. It makes it feel that much more real and that much, they're all so green going out there, and it just increases the likability of the characters as a whole.
And he's, what was I going to say? I was going to say something, but I couldn't remember what it was. But yeah, I mean, he does fine. He's not as bad as that French Canadian Janeway, but it was. But yeah, he does a fine enough job, and it does sort of bring him down into whereas Picard didn't really hang out with his bridge crew. He didn't really just hang.
It's a bit more approachable.
Yeah, he's far. Yeah, Mercer's far more approachable than Picard would be. Like Picard, it seems like if you were on the Enterprise, you didn't really walk up to Picard unless you absolutely needed to. Like you didn't bother him. There was that one
episode where they were trapped in the turbo lift, and where he was trapped in the turbo lift with the little kids.
Yeah.
And I mean, that just epitomizes how separated he was from his crew.
Yeah. Whereas he's a lot more approachable than Picard was. Not dissing on Picard, just Picard was a little above everything, which in some ways is good, but it also meant that he didn't seem to hang out a lot with his bridge crew. He sort of stayed above the fray on that sort of thing. But anyway, so we should get back to the episode. Though I suppose this being our first review, we should include our thoughts so far this season on it. And next episode we won't have this much to talk about.
Yeah, we wouldn't have quite as much a problem with it because we
got it out of our system.
Yeah.
So. Where are we now? Let's see. So she sees the clown, and
I forget his name, but he's all like, "Clown, I hate clowns."
Yeah, Lamar. John Lamar. Yeah. I think he's one of the helmsmen.
He is. He's Khan.
Yeah. Or he might be. Anyway, he's down there with the helm. He's deep-seated fear for clowns. So they check the feeds, and there is in fact a clown there. And this is where it starts to get the vibe of, okay, there's, because as you're going along with pretty much any Trek episode, sort of Trek style episode, it's like, all right, something weird has happened that's not supposed to happen.
Time to call Ghostbusters.
Well, what is it? Is it going to be is it an alien that's doing this? Is this all a hologram, or is it is this an alternate universe? What's going on with this? And so they go down to the supply room. She accidentally kills the clown with their little pistols.
Her own favorite. Yeah.
They're calling it a plasma gun in the wiki. In kill mode, because that's what the clown set it to, and she didn't have time to switch it back.
Yeah, I didn't see the clown touching it though.
I seem to remember something about that. Like she had set it for stun, and it had gotten out of her possession in some way and had been switched to kill.
The clown knocked it out of her hands and it went skittering across the room, but the clown himself never touched it because he went to attack her again. And so they were doing hand-to-hand combat until she grabbed her gun again. So unless the setting changed on the ground, it hit and ended up changing settings. I watched it twice. I did not see the clown touch the gun at all.
Well, anyway, at any rate, she kills the clown. The clown vaporizes and poof, it's gone. So at this point, you're going, okay, something's weird going on here. It's got a very TNG. This is a very TNG episode.
It does.
The hologram, or is this a dream, or what is this? They go to yellow alert. I'm surprised they got that one passed, but I suppose yellow alert is not too crazy to be crossing over.
They have those alert things on most military vessels. They have different color alerts for different things. So
yeah,
that's not such a weird.
Yeah, though we found out the origin for the Starfleet one was red alert was originally read alert, or something to that effect. So they don't know what's going on, and they get to the commander's quarters, and she nearly goes into an infinitely deep hole. They all think there's something obviously wrong. Ed thinks it's some sort of collective mental problem.
When they're oh wait, no, that's a little later. Carry on.
Yeah. Let's see. So then Alara goes to the med bay to be checked up on, and Claire tries to kill her. And they lock her up. So at this point, it could still be some sort of hallucination. At this point, nobody's died, aside from a clown that we had no idea where it came from. Nobody's died at this point, so it could still be that little theory maker in your head is still going, okay, this could still be real. Just something weird.
Wait,
happened.
somebody did die.
Yeah.
Well, he was not a big enough character that if he died, okay, this could still be real. This could still be real.
And even if it was just in their heads, Claire went insane and killed him. It wasn't like it was an illusion. It was a delusion where she went insane. So that technically still counts as a mental illness.
Yeah,
because a contagious mental illness.
Yeah, it would have been the insanity defense would have, because she didn't know what she was doing at the time. Couldn't tell whether she couldn't tell right from wrong at the time. So, I think insanity defense probably would have worked for her, but if it had
Although
been
when
real.
they were in the meeting, the thing with, this is going to sound like I'm talking out of my ass, then please try to enunciate. And a little explanation about it makes me think of Q's mindality from the IQ book, where he's talking about how the continuum formed itself into a reality that their brains can access, because the true existence of Q would like blow your minds out, and literally did blow Data's brains out. But, so it's mind and reality, mindality. And I watched it like twice, and both times she's talked about it, I'm like, Q.
Anyway,
But yes, it made me the mindality thing.
But so they lock Claire up, the chief medical officer. They lock her up, having gone crazy. So they have another meeting to try and figure out what the heck is going on. And then at that point, multiple tarantulas begin infesting the room, and one attacks Gordon Malloy. Based, being this new, the strange activity, Mercer agrees to bring the Orville back into it, hoping it would end wherever it might have started. So that, at this point, it could be just reality warping. There could be some weird reality warping with the plasma storm. At this point, nobody major has died. Somebody died, but it could be explained away. They're not a big enough character. But then
it was just the figure in the red shirt.
yeah. Well, green in this case. He's medical. But so Gordon and Alara go back to the elevator, and then there's a giant freaking spider. To which Gordon is eaten alive. It's like, at this point, it has to be something like a hologram or a delusion or something. It has to be something that's not real, because you wouldn't kill off a character like that.
That would be like killing off Data, or more like, actually, he reminds me of Tom Paris.
Yeah,
he really reminds me of Tom Paris.
I think that might have been what he was. He's Tom Paris if Tom Paris got to be a little more edgy. Well, not edgy, but like he wasn't restrained by this type of things that you couldn't get away with on Voyager. The stuff McFarlane can get away with because he's not Star Trek.
No, see, they would kill off a character if they could go back in time.
But
they've never had time travel abilities yet. And
there was that one that they did show that they exist at some point with that woman that time traveled and tried to collect the Orville. So, I mean, nothing in their time, but
they don't have time travel ability because it was destroyed with her.
But
no, I'm saying that if like the storm was real and they went back through it all went back to normal, like nothing happened.
Oh, a reboot scenario.
Yeah, the loop closed, and like it was some continuity loop, and they closed it somehow, and it whipped everything back around, and nothing started. Like, wasn't that how they basically handled All Good Things?
Yeah. Although All Good Things was a self-fulfilling prophecy, because the scans that they were doing to try to figure out how to fix it were what was creating the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. So once they closed that loop, the whole thing reset, because it never existed in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
But so at that point, once Gordon dies, it's like, okay, there's going to be some reset, or this is all a hallucination or hologram or something.
My instant thought is Alara's in a coma. Or
this
because
is all a dream or
it was
something.
all revolving around Alara.
Yeah.
Even when Claire's like, "They're coming for you," and pointing directly at her.
So at this point, the ship is completely abandoned. The whole place is empty.
And even that made me think of a TNG episode.
Yeah.
The one where Crusher was trapped in that pocket universe, and the universe was shrinking more and more. And I don't remember the name of the episode, but
yeah. So there's nobody there. She went to engineering to get the shields up for protection, but Isaac is there too. Who
he mentioned about the creature coming back, and that's when she realized, wait a second, I didn't tell you how Gideon died. I mean, Gideon, wrong fandom.
Gordon.
Gordon. Gideon is the name of the sentient ship, the AI in Legends of Tomorrow. No, Gordon died.
Yeah, but she's never said anything.
And so it's an immediate. Wait a second. How did you know?
Something's off here.
It's all your fault. Holy shades of Terminator.
Yeah.
I can't do that, Hal.
Yeah, and at this point,
Right.
they find out that she is in a simulation. Because at this point, it's gone off on the rails enough that something's going to give. It's like people know. They know what's going on.
Yeah.
They're unable to turn it off since she issued Protocol 38, which gives security personnel complete jurisdiction over the ship in times of crisis, even above a captain. So she basically pulled out her.
The captain gets drunk and decides to do something stupid.
Yeah.
Seriously, this just reads like Madrock.
Hey. Yes.
If we ever read the script, Madrock is Mercer. I claim Alara.
Yeah. But but yeah, she pulls that on them. So she gets to the shuttlecraft and tries to escape, but flames get ignited rather, and she's able to conquer that fear and fly out of the Orville before it blows up or is destroyed.
Hey, I'll be there tonight. I'll see you tonight, okay? Oh, I gotta get your shoes. Come here.
So,
Hello?
Yeah. So she gets in the shuttlecraft, escapes the Orville through the flames. She was wondering what happened and why they would do that to her. It turns out that she had asked for simulation.
It done to her.
Yeah, and that Claire had wiped her memory under false pretenses. She'd been convinced to, under false pretense, she'd been told to basically clear her memory so that the simulation would work. And normally this would be a court-martial offense.
But she pwned that.
Yeah.
And
She looked the other way on it. And
because Mercer understands, and because it's like, well, the ship itself, the structure of it is far less stringent than anything Starfleet would have.
yeah.
Because It's like drinking beer on the bridge.
Yeah.
Or no, soda on the bridge. There you go.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, just let
Don't
let
drink
him
and
pass.
drive, kids.
But yeah, and oh yeah, she would have been. Picard would have probably court-martialed her. He would have said, no, you don't deserve to wear that uniform. This is becoming
Yeah,
a
and
speech.
Janeway probably would have had her locked in the bridge for the night just to prove a point.
The brig, yeah. Yeah,
Brig.
yeah, or yeah, it's like no, this is abuse. I can't afford to lose you permanently, but we're going to put you we're going to give you some
You
awful
are
assignment or
grounded,
something to just punishment for this little nonsense. I still need you for what you're good for, but I'm going to give you something. So I'm going to do something about you.
You're
Yeah.
grounded.
Yeah. And well, at any rate, it was a the funny thing is the there were some interesting fears thrown out there. There was an alligator at some point, clowns, tarantulas being eaten alive, surgery.
Fear of heights.
Yeah, well, not sure heights. I think it was like isolation
heights.
or something.
Yeah, but the vortex was Claire's. It was fear of heights. The vortex in Kelly's room. Claire said that was mine. That was fear of heights.
Okay, I thought it was. I seem to remember it being something else, but
No,
okay.
That was Kelly's fear was isolation, and that's why the ship being completely empty. That was that was Kelly's fear.
Okay. Yeah, it's been a while. I didn't watch it this.
Yeah.
I watched it when it came out, and that's about the last time I watched it.
And fear of killer robots. Fear of Isaac was Barusa.
It was what?
And was I forget his name. The
Bortus? Was
Boris.
Yeah. Yeah. Because he
Boris.
wasn't afraid of the alligator. He killed the alligator.
Yeah.
He crushed it.
He was afraid of Isaac. He was afraid of Isaac.
Which made for a little awkward moment.
Yeah, it's like, I'm feeling rather uncomfortable. May I take my leave?
Yes. But, yeah. So, this was a very TNG style episode where it's like, yes, this is a messing with your mind sort of situation.
Yeah.
It was an alright episode.
It wasn't the best so far, but there were a lot of really great episodes to compare it to. So.
Yeah, and I would much rather watch this than something else.
I would rather much rather watch this than Enterprise, bro.
Yeah, there are some episodes of Enterprise where I'd be like, yeah, I would rather have watched this episode than that episode of Enterprise.
Yeah.
There are a handful of episodes of Enterprise that I would rather watch than this, but there's only a handful.
First season of Enterprise.
And the last season had some good stuff in it too. Had some weird stuff in it. Yeah,
basically the very end caps and everything in the middle was shit.
But yeah, like Union, anything with Shran. Anything with Shran in it.
4 was shit.
What?
And then Shran, I loved Shran.
Anytime Shran was involved, it was gonna be a good episode.
Yeah, it's kind of the opposite of a Spike episode.
Yeah, anytime Shran was involved, something cool was gonna happen. the Vulcan monastery thing. Yeah, his first appearance. That's a cool episode. You know, it's like you take all the scans you want. You know, but it's you know, that was, you know, and you know, some of the later ones where Archer is bringing together the Federation. Is starting to bring the Federation. Not the last episode, but there's a lot of interesting stuff in the first and last season because they really took advantage of the setting in the first one, and they really started to take advantage of the setting in the fourth one. But then you had that temporal Cold War stuff in the middle. But anyway, any last thoughts on Firestorm?
That's also the name of the character, the superhero name of the character that the admiral that gave Mercer his captaincy plays in Legends of Tomorrow. The admiral that gave Mercer the position.
Yeah.
He plays Martin Stein, the one half of the superhero Firestorm.
Yeah.
In Legends of Tomorrow. So that's kind of a funny little coincidence there.
Didn't he also? He was also in Flash, wasn't he?
Yeah. Well, he started out in Flash.
Yeah. He had like an episode or two of that.
Flash, Arrow, Supergirl, and Legends of Tomorrow are all interconnected, but he became a main character when he joined the Legends.
You know, since this show has a lot of parallels to Star Trek, I wonder if they're going to introduce a Q type character.
I really hope so. Although I do think they did an even better job than Next Gen, or mostly because they have better equipment and stuff now, as far as like the CG. But I really like Yaphet. I really like Yaphet, the gelatinous character.
Yeah.
I mean,
he does make your skin crawl a little bit sometimes, but
well, that's because he's a freaky little pervert.
yeah.
But
Yeah, do you think Claire and Yaphet had have talked about what happened?
No, I really doubt it. She's just like, nothing happened. It never happened. No. It's like, how do you feel about going swimming?
No.
So wrong and so hilarious.